Evening, everyone. I'm Michael. Welcome to this evening's talk and meditation practice. Before we get started, we have a few announcements to make. If you haven't already, please remember to silence your cell phones and put them away so you can be fully present for the talk and meditation. If you must use your phone, please do so outside the meditation hall. We invite you to join Geshe Lobsang Tenzin for our weekly Medicine Buddha practice in person and online at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. Next Tuesday, for our Tuesday evening public talk at 7 p.m., Geshe Lobsang will speak on 8 verses of Training the Mind, verse 3. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m., the monks conduct evening prayers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama's long life and other teachers. On Thursdays at 4:30 p.m., the Drepung Loseling monks conduct the Protector Puja for smooth journeys, successive interviews, medical treatments, new business, etc. The intermediate series continues in November with Class 5 on the topic of Vajrasattva meditation, the path of purification and inner transformation. This once-a-month 5-class series is held on the second Saturday of the month through November via Zoom. The follow-on ties into that. There will be a Vajrasattva empowerment offered by His Eminence Gansa Rinpoche on the morning of November 8th for those who will be attending the Intermediate Series Class 5. The empowerment will be offered in person as well as online. Those who have received the Vajrasattva empowerment are permitted to join the weekly Sunday Vajrasattva practice sessions at 9:30 a.m. As a reminder, please do not park on the grass along the driveway behind the building. If the lot's full, overflow parking can be found via Skyland Drive at the elementary school. Only access the school parking via Skyland Drive and walk down the hill to our site. Information on all events can be found in the lobby and on our website at drepung.org. Let's see, there's a donation box near the entrance to this room. Your generous support helps us to continue to offer programs and services like this to our Atlanta community and to those around the world through our online programs. Now, if you would please stand as we invite our teacher, Geshe Lobsang, to in for this evening's talk.
Good evening. How are you doing? Good? Really? Really, really good? That's wonderful. That is great. So, we're going to touch on the second verse from the 8 verses on mind training. Yes? How many of you have actually read all 8 verses? If you haven't read, raise your hand. Or do you have a text in front of you? Yeah, it will take 1.5 minutes to read it. Please read it first. Just read it once. Maybe we can all read together. Why don't we do that first instead of chanting? Would you like to do chanting or do you chant this one? Yeah, let's do this one. You know, this... Okay. Let's start. By thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, for accomplishing the highest aim, I will always hold them dear. Whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depth of my heart, cherish others as supreme. In my every action, I will watch my mind, and the moment destructive emotions arise, I will confront them strongly and avert them, since they will hurt both me and others. Whenever I see ill-natured beings, or those overwhelmed by heavy misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I had found a priceless treasure. Whenever someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Even when someone I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as a true spiritual teacher. In brief, directly or indirectly, I will offer help and happiness to all my mothers and secretly take upon myself all their hurt and suffering. I will learn to keep all these practices untainted by thoughts or eight worldly concerns. May I recognize all things as like illusions and without attachment gain freedom from bondage. Wonderful, isn't it? Yeah? Yes, it's... When we complete all the 8 verses, I want to check with you what you think about this. But for now, we will focus on the 2nd verse. We will do some meditation at the end. Hopefully we will have some time for some discussion also, but I would want to start this first with brief check-in. Last Tuesday, those who were here, I said you have some homework. Remember? Yes? Some homework to do. And that homework was to take some time. Okay, if you can take maybe 5 minutes to journal who you are grateful for. Because the first verse presented other beings as more precious than the wish-fulfilling jewel. If you have a jewel that is most precious, even more precious than that are each one of beings for us. Why? Because we are beings with needs. We have physical needs. Even to live, the oxygen, where does that come from? The trees, the plants, the clean air, that, and so forth, clean water. Food, we have physical needs, food and so forth. Where do they come from? Earth grows, yes, but also other people. Bread that we eat in the morning, it didn't just come out of nowhere. Somebody baked, somebody had to harvest, somebody had to, create that and that bring it into the store. That we had to have money to buy it. We got to get money. Unless you are a trust fund baby, you had to make money from some work, that earn. That meant that somebody gave you job. The job that you have depends. It's like sitting idly, just doing nothing. Not like that. If you are a teacher teaching, if you are a physician treating others, you are a business person, you are the clients and so forth. It depends on others. Our life, social life, is totally dependent on others. So I talked about how can we cultivate this sense of gratitude towards others. How can we feel this tender connection with others? In this age where it's so easy for us to drift away from others, more and more isolated, into this loneliness. It's an epidemic that is so destructive for our health and well-being. Sense of connection is what we need, this tender connection. That can come if we can have the courage, take the time, no matter how busy we are, giving gifts to ourselves, to take a few moments to make visible the kindness of others. to see where my needs are coming from. In this infinite web of interconnectedness, seeing that everything that I have, whether it's physical or emotional need, spiritual need, professional needs, other people are there who's making it possible for us. You know? This is what the practice has to do. The training, mind training, training our mind, training ourselves to see more and more how other beings are making difference in my life. Social life is totally, characterized by interdependence. And that's what we talked about. That's the first verse that we read right now. Of course, it is aspirational, that to have that kind of, valuing of others, the more precious than the most, the Queen Elizabeth's, that jewel Kokonur, and British Queen's crown has this big jewel called Kokonur. It was brought from India, like the most precious stone there is right now, right? But the wish-fulfilling jewel is a myth, a mythological kind of understanding that if you have something of jewel, you make your wishes for the food and so forth and so on, all these things materialize. Even more precious than that is others for us. Not only, yes, certainly for us to survive and thrive, we need others. Others, we depend on others. Others made it possible. But even from the spiritual point of view, this is in the Mahayana practice, Buddhist practice. If you take a little bit away from our ordinary, general kind of practical position, to really envision what Shantideva, the great masters who are devoting themselves to benefiting totally to others, as they see that to be maximum benefit to others, one needs to be fully awakened, enlightened. Now that if that full awakening is the most, prized goal that you have, of course, most important goal is to benefit others. But in order to be able to do that at the maximum level, what would make you able to do that is that if you are fully awakened, fully enlightened. That's the Mahayana, the great vehicle in Buddhist Tibetan, in the Buddhist tradition. That's called the Mahayana, the great vehicle. The ideal in the Mahayana Buddhism is the Bodhicitta, this aspiration to be fully enlightened. For what? To be of maximum help to others. If that is full awakening is what you really value in order to help all beings, the most important is the well-being of others, to value that, then it's the sentient beings who lead us to there, that whether it's ethics, whether it's patience, whether it's generosity, all these practices are in relation to other beings. Sentient beings, even the most nasty beings for the time being, they give you the opportunity to cultivate those inner strengths, the qualities that lead to your transformation. So from that perspective, looking that sentient beings are not only precious because we derive all the benefits from them, the ordinary, but even for us to spiritually advance it is in relation to the sentient beings. What kind of forgiveness is there if everybody is just anointing you with the sandalwood perfumes and all kind of things, showering you with your praises and all those things? Where is forgiveness? Forgiveness is that inner strength that is when somebody is criticizing you, when somebody is pushing your buttons, challenge you. If you are not crushed by that, if you have the inner ability to forgive, for that a challenger is the necessary condition. This mind training is quite outrageous. These verses, as you read, it may probably raise your eyebrows a couple of times. Yeah? It certainly did mine. When you read something like it says that, like that, whenever I see ill-natured beings, very mean beings, or those overwhelmed by just heavy misdeeds, really bad, actors, like that, or someone who is really suffering it very bad, it says that I will cherish them as something rare, as though I have found a priceless treasure. Can you imagine this? Doing this? Feeling this way? Depending on, I don't know which side of the political spectrum you fall right now, our country is quite polarized. You watch the what is the CNBC, or what is the left, right? MSNBC, or you watch the Fox News. It's the two worlds. You see, I think that, if you are in the echo chamber of one side, you look the other side, do you think that you will say that these pieces are priceless treasures? Are they priceless treasures for you? Like that. Or they are just a mean, that I want to crush them. It's not easy. It's not easy. So that's why that this, but this is where, if you can grow, if there's a way for us to rise above this division, when someone is acting, holding values, ideologies that so don't agree with you, but you still are able to not demonize them, not make them evil, but rather see them as human beings. Coming from somewhere, circumstances that way, it's not like that they are evil and like that. That. You think that half of America is evil? Half of the American society is evil? No, like that, how can you say that? But when we are on one side, we can end up making the other side evil, feeling evil. So this is it's a mind training. If we can really see that, how these are the conditions that where we can cultivate our inner fortitude, the strength to rise above, to understand where they're coming from, perspective, see their humanity, respect their humanity, and like that. We have elevated ourselves, that, and that's the others made that possible. So that's why mind training. These 8 verses would seem quite outrageous, but nonetheless, it is these inner transformations are what we need to, try. It's a little bit, that not totally. Otherwise, we would be saints, like that. We would. It's not. It's just even like the 1%. Dan Harris. You know who Dan Harris is? He's an anchor at NBC, right? NBC? Dan Harris? Nobody knows Dan Harris? Yeah. He's a news anchor at NBC. Really, nobody knows who Dan Harris is? Nobody has seen him? Yeah, NBC? Dan Harris. Is it my pronunciation of his name? Dan Harris? Yeah. Exactly, yeah. You see that somebody knows. 10% happier is the book he wrote. He's a news anchor. Actually, now I'm doubting how well known he is. Yeah. But I think he's very well known, in general, maybe in certain populations, there's certain corners. He does a lot of, talks about the meditation and all these things, He wrote a book called 10% Happier to point to the fact that even if 10% happier we are, our lives are very, very good. That we can't think that our life is going to be perfect, no problem. Just make a little bit better. Same thing, if we can be a little bit kinder, the change it will create around us would be, incredible. That 10% kinder. He's actually writing, I heard he was writing a book called 10% Kinder now. To be 10% kinder than where we are today. Each individual is different. I mean, that some of you are very kind already. Some maybe like me, just really at the bottom. But we can try to be 10%, wherever we are, 10% kinder. That can make a whole difference. So that don't take these 8 verses like, this is tomorrow we need to be like this. But just see this as an aspirational. This is where, if we really practice, at some point we can get there. But for now, I want to just be a little better than where I am today. That is the approach. So that, having said that, how many of you did your homework? Who did, at least once journaling about the gratitude? Raise your hand, please. Wow, that's great. Thank you. That's wonderful. Wonderful. So for others, if you want to come here, you got to do your homework. Yes. And I'm going to give homework tonight also for the next week. Now, those of you who did the homework, maybe 1 or 2 can share what happened. What was that like? Yes, Tim, you like to share?
I started reading it twice a day and thinking. I didn't start writing it down until yesterday, actually.
Yeah, that's.
Oh my gosh!
There's 2 people online here.
Oh,
Yeah, we have other people online. Yeah, please.
I didn't know that. But I kept adding to the list. Each day I would think about it, and then sometimes I'd be thinking about it just driving to the grocery store or something like that, and think of new people to put on the list. And then it was actually yesterday morning that I wrote them all down, just a short list. So I didn't journal as I go.
And what shifts did you notice in your feelings,
I kept adding people, kept thinking of general categories of people, started out with individuals close to me. My dad was the first person that came to mind. Every time you said that, he's the first person that comes to my mind. That shown me really great kindness, unconditional. And then it went to my sons, the rest of my family, all of my teachers. And I remembered something from a teaching from Drepung Rinpoche when we were supposed to visualize our teachers. And he said you should include everyone, even the person that first taught you to read. So that teachers should be everybody that has ever taught you anything. School, work, education. And then the teachers, the gurus from Drepung, who I've received teachings from. Co-workers, employers, family, friends, neighbors. So the list got more generalized as I went on. It started out specific and then became more generalized.
So what happened? Did you feel any different?
Yeah, it made me think about all those people.
Yes.
And each time I was reading it, I would kind of add to the list and think about it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Do you feel more connected to them?
I wish they'd call me on the phone more often.
Yes. But when you see what you have benefited, does it make certain degree of warm feeling towards them?
Yeah.
And does that warm feeling feels good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. One more. Yes, please.
It's easy when we at least sometimes when we talk here about our being mutually dependent on each other, that it's easy to think about this in a kind of a logical, cerebral way. And the thing that was nice about this exercise is that it makes the connectedness and the warm feeling more emotionally tangible, I think. And so that was the advantage of this homework from my perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. It can, just remain more as theory. It can just intellectual. But when you really start writing, and then just in what ways that this person made a difference to me, when you start really reflecting, then it becomes something that you experience that kindness. And it makes a difference. Thank you. So I want to focus on the second verse. We're going to focus on the second verse today. And that is, whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depth of my heart, cherish others as supreme. This goes quite against our prevailing culture. Individualistic ideology. Me first. It doesn't go with this. Here it is said that whenever I associate with others, whenever I associate with others, may I see them, as the lowest. For others from the depth of my heart, hold as supreme. That doesn't, go with the kind of prevailing culture that, what matters is you matter. The first, you don't have obligation to others. I'm talking about extreme ideology, extreme individualism. I don't think none of us, belong to that. But extreme ideal individualism, as a general in the society, general trend, in the last 60, 70 years, apparently has been kind of more and more into this extreme individualistic culture that we have been going. There's a book written by David Brooks called Second Mountain. Have you heard that? Second Mountain? Yeah, Second Mountain. In the Second Mountain, David Brooks talks about, our society today has just swung too far into individualistic, extreme individualistic. And this is where we lose sense of connection. Whereas deep down, we seek community, we seek relationship, But the way that our ideologies that we buy into that me first, I am what matters, that actually psychologically it makes us more and more away from others. Isolation, disconnection. Disconnection is a huge source of our suffering today. There are a lot of studies, research, it shows that social connectivity, the more you feel connected with others, you are better off emotionally. You're better off your health-wise. That social connectivity is so key. Scientists like Frans de Waal, this primatologist, he talks about that how the most dreaded punishment after capital punishment, the death sentence. What is the most dreaded punishment after capital sentence? Yeah, solitary confinement. Solitary confinement. You throw people into this, cell and leave them weeks, with nobody to interact, nobody to talk, nobody to see, nobody to interact. People go insane. We're not built, we're social beings. We're built to live with others, interact with others. We feed into each other, from each other. That social connectivity is such deep need in us. But when in our kind of society, that to some degree this ideology of me first kind of the way it takes over, then we begin to neglect others. In the neglecting others, we lose that sense of connection and we become more and more isolated. Have you heard that this loneliness is an epidemic in America? Surgeon General has talked about that. Vivek Murthy, that loneliness. Its impact of loneliness on our longevity, even the longevity, is equal to smoking 20 cigarettes a day. It's worse than being obese. Think about that. The psychological feeling of loneliness. Loneliness is a subjective feeling. It doesn't matter how many people are around you. You can be just have millions of Facebook friends, followers, millions. No meaningful connection there. You can be still very lonely. You can be sitting in a cave, in some Himalayan cave, be connected with others, subjectively, not lonely. Yes, isolated physically, but not lonely, like that. COVID showed that so clearly when we had to self-distance, physical distance from others, social distance. Physical distance, I think is good. Social distance, I don't know. We shouldn't have social distance. Physically, yes, 7 feet or so not to get COVID, Impact of that social distancing, particularly younger children, teenagers, was enormous. Like that mental health problems just went off the roof, post-COVID. So all this, what it shows is that we all want to be happy, to flourish, have a better quality. Yes, money is important. The physical resources are important. Don't get me wrong; these are very, very important. I mean, that if we are, on the streets, homeless with no food and no medicine and like that, I mean, that how can we, flourish? Of course, but despite this material conveniences and comforts, if we want to have happiness, we feel happiness in the sense of it's sense of a certain degree of satisfaction in life, and that where life is good, feels good, like that part we have to more work to do. If we are spending 8 hours at work to earn money, so we have house, we have good food, we have clothing, and so forth and so on, that's taking care of one part. Other part, if we neglect that, we will be washed with gold and money and everything, but still be languishing emotionally. So we need to bring the other part as well. Pay attention to the other part. And that is what we bring on our side, internal, inner resources. External resources are one part, inner resources are other. Yes? I'm sort of compelled to share something. Please, please. Wisest person here, yes. Yeah.
Unless what we talk about, unless you physically and mentally understand that climbing that ladder that we're all taught to climb for whatever reason, whether it to be the CEO or whatever, you don't recognize that is a ladder of loneliness. And the higher you climb, the more lonely you become. Because what you do is you place so much of your emphasis of your life into that climb. And along the way, and I won't name the named universities in their MBA programs, even perpetuate that you don't owe your fellow man anything, you owe yourself first. So what happens is that you become self-afflicted with this issue of you're getting there, it's all for you, and one day, and it really happens, you find out you're totally alone.
Thank you. That is, unfortunately, that is mostly so true. It doesn't have to be that way. You see that? That's the whole thing. To climb the corporate rung or the social hierarchy, it doesn't need to be stepping on someone's shoulders and pressing down for you to climb. It can be, the uplifting others and rising from that. But unfortunately, when the extreme ideology of individualism takes over, that what matters is you, then we get into this zero-sum game. My gain has to be someone's loss. The power when we achieve, we mistreat others, neglect others. And to rise with this kind of nasty competition of you lose the trust from others in you. There may be, if you are in power, put the superficial kind of all the praises and like that. But you can sense it's not genuine. That is what when we fail to respect that human value in others, connection, then we can actually end up eroding that trust from others. And that a society built on trust, that if that's not there, then you will become very lonely, That's what one of my friends, who is a psychotherapist, exactly what you are saying, that she told me a long time ago, and I've kind of repeated many times. She told me that she was, giving therapy to one of the CEOs of international company, the big international company. And this guy now retired, retired CEO. And then after months of training they went through, one day, then he come to this awakening that where he told her that, if I were to start my life from the scratch now, I will be climbing a very different wall. Said, very different wall. What kind of wall he is talking? He was talking about he, advanced in this career, but from where he is looking at now, still lonely. No one really. People never let people to come close because he was in the ambition of being important, rising, perhaps neglecting, taking advantage of others and like that, and then eroding that trust and love from others. Now you are, several $1 million perhaps in the account, but you are lonely. Even the family members may not visit you that much because you were quite nasty, to them. So what kind of life that you have? So he's talking about that he will be climbing very different ladder, that if he were to start. And that ladder is to valuing others, those who you have in life, valuing others. Just seeing the importance of them. They are human beings in your life, that what they are making possible for you. That, if you spend some time to give genuine love, it's those connections that is what is going to, bring the happiness, fulfillment, the genuine kind of happiness now and later. And that's why the business is same thing. Business that, for the short-term benefit and it's just taking kind of the advantage of the clients and like that, yeah, you will make a good profit for short-term. You can, market fluctuates, goes up and down. Your clients who do really have built trust in you, they will stay with you, ups and down. Fair weather friends, they will disappear. Yet from the sustainable model for the business itself, selfishness is not a sustainable model. That is what the new thinking, that's why the compassion, that is grounded in this meaningful connection. It's becoming more and more important in all sectors, including financial sector today, business sectors. Anyway, humility. All spiritual traditions have made humility a very, very important virtue. Not because it's just some kind of metaphysical thing that humility is what is. Humility is not about being humble. is not about devaluing oneself. Actually, the most successful people, some of the most successful people, genuinely successful people, I'm not talking about just having big bank account, genuinely successful people who admire them and like that, you will find most humble. Research shows that, that which kind of leader would you feel trusting? Somebody who never, shows his or her vulnerability, always tough and they like that, or someone who shows his or her, true human nature, the vulnerability, the limitation, the weakness, and like that. Research overwhelmingly shows that people trust more of those leaders who actually are, who show their vulnerability, like that, who don't kind of cover their mistakes and so forth, who admit that yes, they don't know the best, they don't have the best. That's the human nature. Humility, that's why the spiritual tradition, have you heard this phrase, aim low? Aim low is a Christian, phrase. Aim low. Aim low. Aim. A-I-M. Aim low. It's a Christian, you're coming from a Judeo-Christian culture, that aim low. This is one of the things that the Christian theology have talked about. Desert fathers and mothers, that in the Christian tradition, early centuries, they practice the aim low. It's not about aim low, not being that, I'm nothing, and this kind of, lacking self-worth. Not like that. Aim low is about humility. That humility is, you think about the humility, epistemic humility. Nowadays we talk about epistemic humility, or the intellectual humility. Humility. If I don't have this intellectual humility, or the kind of epistemic humility, like in terms of the knowledge, if I don't have this, sense that I don't know everything. I don't know. There's much more for me to learn. There's so much more knowledge there that others have. How would I even have that openness to learn more? It will shut down the arrogance of me, like that. I don't need to learn anything. I know everything. I'm the best. That kind of arrogance. That will close the door from our learning. That's why epistemic humility is so important, for students, for the leaders, for every one of us. That is what brings the openness, curiosity, to learn. That is where if you think about the humility, the Shantideva, this master of the mind training, his second verse in this first chapter of his book, after paying homage to his teachers, the masters, for the knowledge that he has received. The second verse he said, he says that there's nothing here that I can share with you that has not already been taught. He is composing a text, Bodhicharya Avatara, the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. This is the monumental text. It's absolutely the most incredible psychological text that if you think about, that contemplative psychology text. He is talking about, there's nothing here that I have to share that has not already been taught. I don't have the eloquence of composing the words, syntax says that. In that sense, I don't have any illusion that I will have something huge to contribute to this. But he says that I composed this to familiarize the very values that, tools that I value it in order to familiarize, reinforce. I like to write this, and perhaps those who are like me at my level, that perhaps it might resonate with you, be of benefit to you. Humility, look at the humility there, that it's a great, great master. It's in that, here I'm going to write this, it will enlighten you. It will make you the best, it will do this. I'm not saying that. It's humility there. There's nothing new that has not been taught. I don't have, it's actually, Bodhicitta Avatara is one of the most beautiful texts in the verses, metaphors it uses. But it's saying that, it don't have the eloquence kind of of this writing in syntax, But in that sense, it may not be of help people who are looking for that, just kind of something that sounds beautiful. But here something that I'm writing to familiarize, and then if somebody is like me, perhaps it will benefit, and that's what. Humility is a very, very important virtue, and that's why, if you think about, the Tibetans have a saying, on the big rocks, the big mount, big boulders, the rainwater does not stay there, On the big kind of mount of ego, arrogance, the qualities or knowledge doesn't stay there either. So that's why humility is an important part, and spiritual traditions have done that. But I'm going to share some psychological, research-based kind of findings for you. There are many researchers, psychologists have done research and written on this. Why humility matters. Number one, it improves self-awareness, reduces cognitive bias. Self-awareness, that when I think that, I know everything like that, I will not be in a place to really checking with how I'm behaving, how I am acting, how am I coming across others. Because if I feel that I'm the best, I know the best, like that, we lose self-awareness. Without that self-awareness, how do we? Interpersonal relationship begins with self-awareness. Aware that, am I getting a little irritated? Am I, how am I coming across? If we don't see that, how am I going to adjust my relationship with my wife? That with my children, with my students, with my colleagues, and like that. Self-awareness, the humility when with someone comes that I have a lot to learn from the world, lot to learn from my colleagues, people around, my students, that the teachers, true teachers, they don't see the students as someone who, they just kind of you dump your knowledge there. Actually, that the good teachers, they know that they learn from the students experience, what they share. There's a lot to learn from that. Humility promotes self-awareness, reduces cognitive bias. That bias is, if I think that, I know what is right and like that, then, certain things that, okay, this is all fake media. Like this fake news, like that, or right like that. But instead, if we have some humility, that let me hear, that it's mindful listening, non-judgmental awareness, it's not judging. This is all part of the humility. I'm hearing something very different. Let me hear why this person is saying that, where it is coming from. It creates that cognitive bias, it reduces bias, strengthens relationship. Research, that was showing that it strengthens relationship because, who would want to be around the arrogant person, that who is always about just full of himself or herself? That relationship, do you want to be in relationship with such a person? It will suffocate us, that living with such a person who is just full of himself or herself, just always. Humility is someone that who wants to values what you have to say, who sees what you brings to. So that's why the humility, that openness that the other person has to relationship through empathy, that you begin to understand others and so forth. Open-mindedness promotes mental well-being by reducing defensiveness, anxiety. If I am not secure enough in myself, and then each time what I have to say, if someone even slightly questions, if I'm coming from this kind of arrogance and without humility, I'll have to defend myself. Offensive, I will become offensive, like that. That's what happens. It actually, have you heard about imposter syndrome? This is a major issue, right? Imposter syndrome, like that. Part of the imposter syndrome has to do with that I need, they expect me to know a lot, and I'm presenting, like sitting here teaching about this mind training. I may, if I may, present myself that I know all these things, that. But then I know from my heart also that, I don't really know that much. But I'm, hiding, masking that. Imposter syndrome comes, part of this has to do with, what I'm supposed to be, know all, and like that. What about if you begin that, yes, no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I don't have to know everything, that's not possible, It's okay, whatever little I know that I can share. I don't need to be perfect. Then you don't have that psychological conflict and anxiety. That's talking about. So there are, from practical steps for cultivating humility, based on this I'm sharing research-based. Spiritual traditions have a lot to say that. Reflective practices it asks. There are interventions that they provide. Regularly ask what might I be missing. So I think like in whatever we are doing, what might I be missing? Not have all the information quite. We need to ask, and then we will see that we don't know a lot of things we don't know. That's okay. It brings. How did others contribute to my success? That is what part of the humility comes, that when we can see whatever I have, any success, any knowledge, any abilities, how it's provided by others, made possible by others. So then, we talk about that I'm self-made. America is great about talking about self-made, you know. Is that true? Yeah, I'm, you know, self-made, you know, whatever I am, I did it. You know, whether rich or, you know, important or whatever. Far from that. We are not self-made. We have, you know, like that, who was the President Roosevelt or somebody said that, you know, that wherever we have, you know, that we have achieved well on the, you know, on the shoulders of, carried by many others, you know, like that. If we can see how others have contributed to my success, my knowledge, my abilities, and like that, it will make us feel grateful, humble, you know, like that. Gratitude, humble. So we need to reflect on that. Guided conversations. It's important to have conversations, you know, routinely with other people, to talk about the certain topics that are important. Discuss, not like, you know, clashing, you know, that I'm right, you're wrong, not like that, but going with the openness to learn, hear, you know, that inquiry, you know, like that mindset. If we can do that, we will learn a lot. A lot of the practices we do in our C-Learning and CBCD is called the mindful dialogue. Mindful dialogue, mindful listening, mindful sharing, mindful dialogue is going into the conversation where you learn from each other to, you know, to whatever the prompts, and then you share, and you really learn to hear that instead of coming your own, you know, assumptions and judgments, just learning to hear. When you do that, you actually learn a lot from others. You know, that is, and that when you see that somebody else's perspective are really important. Of course, you will feel humble. You know, when you respect someone, you know, the people that you respect, do you put them down, or do you feel that they are important? Whether it's your parents or your teachers or that whoever, people who we respect, do we look up, down upon them? Or, you know, psychologically they will become elevated. We look up to them. You know, they are precious. You know, like. Part of the reason that we practice this first verse that got us in reflecting it, seeing the kindness of others, intended or unintended. This also, you know, that this practice of looking at what we are receiving, what we are, is how others have contributed to that we will be humble. It will make us humble. Self-affirmations are important, you know, that it's a regular practice to, you know, have the affirmation. There are various, you know, how do I want to, you know, be in life, that always, all the time right? Or can I have the affirmation that comes, you know, to remind myself in the morning, or, you know, yeah, I'm a human being, you know, that I will try to do my best, but I may fall short. It's okay. I'll try to learn from that. It's growth mindset. You know, that if you take, these are some small kind of steps, but if we do this self-affirmation, the affirmation, you come with that, you know, I'm a social being, I will work, I will learn, I will work to see the value of others. You know, these are core values that you want to affirm in your the day-to-day life. That if you do that, affirm that's the kind of mindset that when you begin to value others, you know, in your immediate, most often immediate relationships and like that, that's what is going to change. You know, acts of service is important. You know. Intentionally, you know, to even if it is just giving some compliment, you know, at the grocery store, somebody who has been standing there for hours, checking people out, like that. We go with our cart with full thing, and then if there are 2, 3 people out, then they will become impatient. Oh, like that, there's so many people. Instead, put the focus on the person who has been standing there, serving all these people for hours. Say hello, how are you doing? They just give a very small kind of comforting word, and like that. That will bring a change in the other person. It will change in you, like that. These are the important things. Feedback seeking, the invite constructive feedback, openness to be to correct it. These are some of the things that you, from time to time, that seek, that ask from others, we do ask feedback, right? These are all part of that, then from the feedback that we can, if you are truly open to it, we'll learn, the way we are, we need improvement made. All this lead to humility. Right? These are some of the practices we need to do. In terms of the research, there are various people, Lovelock et al. In 2014 have done, it's in a book called The Quiet Virtue of, The Quiet Virtue Speaks, Humility Workbook Intervention Study. There's some book called, there's another Thorson et al. Earlier in 2023, very quite recently, Guided Conversations and Intellectual Humility. Affiliation increases humility, gains affiliation, that connection when you make, it makes you more humble. Self-affirmation and humility in debate. There are others, the psychology of humility, appreciative versus self-abasing humility. And distinction about this. Cultivating humility is a lifelong journey. It's not like something that we said that today we are going to do and that will happen. It's a lifelong journey. It is not about thinking less of yourself. Humility is not thinking less, I'm less, I'm nothing, not like that. But about thinking of yourself less. Think of others more. That's what humility has to do. It's just a slight shift from more self-focused attitude to other-focused. The learning little by little, bringing focus to others. And this, it doesn't need to be costly. You hugely go way out of your kind of normal thing. Small, just little changes. Reach out to your people that you haven't spoken, have not written, or in the traffic somebody is in the rush. Let them go first. That's okay. That do things like that. The little changes that you can do. All this will add to the quality of life. Training the mind. That is how we can do that. The humility is a huge virtue. So often when we are caught in this limelight, the fame and the glory and the I'm important, it doesn't need to be world renowned like that. It's important in my own little circle of family or like that. I think that I am the God, like that kind of, when you have that, you really miss the importance of those who are in your life. And that's where the most damage we do to ourselves, to kind of becoming more and more away. And that's why sometimes even the quite adverse condition in our life can be such a blessing to shatter that ego, to bring us humility. Like that. Many big celebrities, you can see that how they can be so, destructive, that the emotion is so empty because of the failing to create that relationship and like that. One of them, I used that in our CBCD, that one Marine who was a swimmer at had the gold medalist, like the Olympic gold medalist and like that. At the peak of his career, he got hurt, the paralyzed waist down, like that, at the peak of his career. Of course, that was devastating to him at the moment. But, he went through his partner, Jenny, or I think is her name. They went through, and months down, he talks about that my old life is over, but the life I have now is more beautiful than ever. I have my partner in the middle. Life is more beautiful that they are there for each other. They appreciate, they have come down from this up in, God realm to the human level, to humility that brings, that relationship. That's what builds the relationship. And then that relationship that we thrive. That's where the happiness is. So let's take a moment. I do want, some chanting is, I think, important, so let's do some chanting. I like us to do this chanting on the second page, the Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. We will just do a few times as we are talking about this altruism, training the mind in compassion, in altruistic mindset, the other-oriented, that humility is important part. This mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, is the mantra of compassion. And compassion is other-oriented. Compassion for others is where the others become such endearing. Om Mani Padme Hum, it simply means that by integrating money is like Sanskrit word for jewel, precious jewel. Padma is lotus. Hum denotes union, integration. And Om stands for our body, speech, and mind, the attitudes, mind. So what it means is that by integrating compassion and wisdom in my life, the lotus represents wisdom, jewel representing compassion, precious compassion. By integrating these two in my life, may I transform my body, speech, and mind. That's affirmation in one sense. For those who do have certain, beliefs in the entities like Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, beings embodying compassion and wisdom, then it becomes seeking the inspirations to integrate wisdom and compassion to transform my body, speech, and mind, seeking inspiration from those who are the source of inspiration for us. So that's whatever way we do, the key here is valuing of compassion and wisdom, to integrate that. It is along with external resources, inner resources, with at the end, if we do have external resources without inner resources, we'll still be miserable. If we don't have external resources, if we can little by little also cultivate these inner resources, it will only make our lives better for us and through us for others. So let's recite this for a few times. Don't feel shy, just recite as loud, as fully, as as you can. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Let's recite this last, at the very end of this page, in the English version, dedication. Let's recite this. May the precious and sublime Bodhicitta, not yet born, be born, and which has been born, not decline, but increase forever. Please take a moment to dedicate this evening that we spent together, just exploring the value of humility, of kindness, compassion. Any positive force that unfolds from our such reflections, cultivating some insights in the value of these virtues. Let's dedicate these positive forces for greater good, for peace, healing, harmony, and happiness for all beings. May there not be more wars, epidemics, and natural disasters. May the great masters appear among us to guide us. Their teachings flourish and teaching holders live long. Please take a moment to dedicate, share what goodness that has unfolded here for us today, for the well-being of someone in your life who is important for you, or who may be struggling at this moment with some health issues, physical or emotional, or the occupational struggles. Just dedicate this towards their well-being, their healing, their protection. And like such people, all others on this earth who may be going through similar challenges and struggles, let's dedicate these positive forces for their well-being, for their protection, for their healing. Let me invite you, if you wish to, conclude this by dedicating the merit to long life and good health of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is the source of inspiration for so many beings on this earth. And all the other great masters from all different spiritual traditions, or those who may not have any particular religious affiliations, but who are the inspiration for nonviolence, for peace, for compassion. May they live long and have good health. And may their altruistic aspirations for others, for the world, become realized. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you.